It's time for a Drunk Talk TV Music Industry News Desk Report.
Strap yourself in for where prohibited batteries not included, not available in state of shock.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Drum Talk TV News Desk Report for today, Thursday, January 15th, 2026. And yeah, it's a different day of the week this week. It'll be Thursday next week as well, although it'll be at 9 a.m. Pacific that day, I think we decided on. But in the meantime, I'm Steven, and this is Shiley. How's it going, Shiley?
It's going good, Steven. How are you?
Good, pretty good. And actually, I think I said Thursday next week instead of Friday, which was what I meant. But yeah, it'll be Friday next week, 9 a.m. Pacific. But anyway, I have a question for you.
Now it's time for
All right, so my icebreaker for you, Shiley, and for anyone watching, feel free to chime in on anything we talk about here, is what is a moment in any movie or show where the song that they use feels kind of out of place?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know if any has specifically come to mind. I don't know. I think sometimes the production seems to be like it should have one feel to it, like a scene. It should be like more sad or something, and then the music comes on and it's not exactly like upbeat and happy, but it maybe isn't quite the same fit as it should be. I don't really know if there's any specific movie or show that I've seen recently that really brings that to mind, though. How about you?
Yeah, one example that comes to mind, and I'm sure there are others that I'm just forgetting, but something that's been on my mind recently because of the recent Percy Jackson show, which is currently airing, is the Percy Jackson movie from like 2010 or around then. They included the song Poker Face, which, catchy song on its own, but I think for an adaptation of a Percy Jackson book, it felt really strange to a lot of people. Although there are some, like, I guess, people who consider the movie a cult classic who would defend the song choice and be like, yeah, that's the best part of the movie, which fair enough. But yeah, just kind of a strange choice. But the adaptation was kind of strange all around because of some of the changes that they made.
Yeah, that's a really great answer. I hadn't even thought of that.
Right. But now we move on to...
It's time for This Day in Music History. One out the whole week because we'd be here forever.
Okay, on this day, January 15th in 2016, 19 of David Bowie's albums entered the UK album charts in the wake of his death. His new album, Black Star, reached number 1. Several of his other albums made the top 40, with Nothing Has Changed, the very best of, reaching his second highest position at number 5, and Diamond Dogs rounding out his chart makers at number 37. 13 Bowie tracks also entered the top 100, led by Heroes at number 12, and his songs were streamed more than 19 million times on services like Spotify and Apple Music. That definitely tracks. I think that is very telling of how much of an influence he was in the music world, that everything that he had done became so much more popular, even for a brief moment after he passed, in a sort of honoring of his legacy.
Yeah, I remember when he passed and there was a huge deal about Black Star, and yeah, people still listen to his music all these years later. Now, 2008, Ronnie Wood, guitarist for the Rolling Stones, was recovering following an operation for a hernia after he sustained an injury during the band's Bigger Band tour. Doctors advised him to rest for 2 months after the procedure. Yeah, whenever dealing with stuff like that, definitely gotta take some rest to make sure you can recover and whatnot.
Yeah, certainly. In 1983, Phil Collins had his first UK number one single with his version of You Can't Hurry Love, a hit for the Supremes in 1966. Collins' version was the first track on the very first Now That's What I Call Music CD. I remember listening to a lot of Now That's What I Call Music when I was younger, when CDs were a lot more prevalent. And we would have them on in the car, or we'd put them on in our like stereo thing that we had in our living room. And that was just kind of my best exposure to the current music at the time. And I think my mom just really liked listening to those. So that's really cool that was the first one.
Yeah, I remember seeing the commercials for those Now That's What I Call Music releases, as well as the ones for Kids Bop, and those would sometimes be my first exposure to certain songs, even if they are cover versions. And of course, on the internet, you have people memeing the Now That's What I Call title, and it can be funny at points. But this next one we have here is 1977, which the Eagles were at number one on the US album chart with Hotel California, the group's third number one album. In the 2013 documentary History of the Eagles, Don Henley said the song was about, quote, a journey from innocence to experience. That's all, unquote. Yeah, even the title alone is iconic. People know Hotel California. You hear it in like everyday speech from now and then. I don't know how frequently, but it happens.
Yeah, definitely. It is one of their most iconic songs and very, very recognizable. In 1976, Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here was on the UK album chart. The album's packaging, designed by Storm Thurgerson, featured an opaque black sleeve inside, which was hidden in the album artwork. He noted that in the US, Roxy Music's Country Life was sold in an opaque green cellophane sleeve. Censoring the cover image, he adopted the idea to conceal the artwork for Wish You Were Here in shrink wrap, making the album art, quote, absent. That is really fun. I don't know if that's still something that is as prevalent, but that is, really fun to kind of, you buy the thing and then you unwrap it and see what it is. And I think there's the element of mystery that everyone still enjoys even to this day.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting element there, and really good album. It's very melodic, it gets emotional. Wish You Were Here is a great album. In 1972, Led Zeppelin's Black Dog made its debut on the US singles chart. The group's third single peaked at number 15 and spent 8 weeks on the chart. The song's title is a reference to a nameless black Labrador retriever that wandered around the Headley Grange studios during recording. Yeah, that's some interesting little context there. And of course, Black Dog is a very well-known Led Zeppelin song.
Yeah, certainly. It's always fun to have a furry friend around when you're doing your work. Makes the time go by faster, I think. Yeah. Also in 1972, Don McLean's American Pie started a 4-week run at number one on the US singles chart. The song is a recounting of the day the music died, the 1959 plane crash that killed Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper, Giles Perry Richardson Jr., and the aftermath. The song was listed as the number 5 song on the RIAA project Songs of the Century. That is a very iconic song as well. It's super long, but definitely some really recognizable lines. And of course, that's a huge day that the day the music died is a huge day in history.
Yeah, I mean, that's really heavy stuff there. And of course, the song has popped up in many things. And like you said, it's comparatively long to some other things people might hear on the radio. I see here that it's a little less than 9 minutes. So yeah, there you go. But getting back to David Bowie, in 1971, David Bowie released Holy Holy as a single in the UK, which failed to chart. A more frantic version of the song was recorded in 1971 for The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, but was dropped from the album and subsequently appeared as the B-side to Diamond Dogs in 1974. Yeah, sometimes that happens when, people record something for an album but doesn't make it on there. And so back in the day when you kind of had to worry about the length of a record, you would kind of have to wait until a single and like put it as a B-side, and that could make it sort of a collectible in a way, because it's like, oh wow, this song that you can't get on the album. Whereas now it's pretty easy for us to seek all these different songs.
Yeah, certainly. In 1969, George Harrison had a 5 with John where he made it clear that he was fully prepared to quit the Beatles for good. He wasn't happy with the plans for live performances and the Let It Be project at the time. That is really interesting. A 5-hour meeting is super long, and we've said this before, the Beatles tend to be on every day in this on this segment, and it wasn't too long after this, I don't think, that they kind of fell apart, right? I'm not remembering the exact year off the top of my head.
I think it was maybe within a year later, because I do remember in the documentary that Peter Jackson put together a few years ago, you could kind of see the moment where, just before, in the timeline, it shows like when George left the Beatles temporarily and then came back, and they finished some stuff, did the rooftop performance, and then a little while later they pretty much disbanded. So yeah, I don't remember if it was a few months or a year. I'm sure any Beatles heads who are more knowledgeable than me about them are like yelling at the laptop or whatever. But yeah, I mean, to the idea of any of them leaving is just a heavy thing because of how iconic that lineup is.
Yeah.
And then in 1967, the Rolling Stones were forced to change the lyrics of Spend the Night Together to Let's Spend Some Time Together when appearing on the Ed Sullivan Show after producers objected to the content of the lyrics. Mick Jagger ostentatiously rolled his eyes at the TV camera while singing and changed lyrics, resulting in host Ed Sullivan announcing that the Rolling Stones would be banned from performing on his show ever again. This is quite a fascinating little thing, because I feel like today an artist, especially with that much popularity, probably wouldn't be asked to change those lyrics like that because it's not as taboo now, I guess. But at the same time, the eye roll thing, I can see how that could feel disrespectful because you're on this show that they let you be on. But at the same time, I kind of feel like the act of banning the Stones just for that is a little bit extreme, if that was a serious ban,
Yeah, definitely. It is, times have changed, and I think this is one of those pieces of this segment that really shows that and highlights the differences. In 1965, The Who released their first single, I Can't Explain, which was written by Pete Townshend when he was 18 years old. The song went on to reach number 8 on the UK chart and peaked at number 93 on the US chart. David Bowie recorded a version of the song for his 7th studio album, Pinups, in 1973, along with another Who song, Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere. Obviously, we've had a lot of David Bowie discussions today. It's, always fun when one big artist takes another big artist's music and does a cover of it. It is really interesting to see how sometimes those shifts and stylistic differences can really highlight who they are as musicians.
Yeah, and sometimes you have those conversations between fans about what their favorite version is of each song, the original or the cover, and it always gets fascinating. And in 1961, the Supremes signed a worldwide recording contract with Motown Records and became the most commercially successful of Motown's acts. They are to date America's most successful vocal group, with 12 number one singles on the Billboard Hot 100. That is very impressive. You know, a dozen number one singles on the Billboard 100. I mean, what a way to put a stamp on music history in that way. All right. So now we move on to, we talked about what happened then. Now we're talking about what's been happening now and lately and whatnot.
Let's see what's in the news at Drum Talk TV. Yeah.
All right, so starting with what's going on at the DrumTalkTVBrilliance.com membership site, we have actually just booked Oliver Wakeman, a keyboardist who is the son of Rick Wakeman, has done some really great solo work, worked with Gordon Giltrap, Clive Nolan, Rodney Matthews, even Yes, and Straubs. So this will be Wednesday, January 21st, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern U.S. times, 7 p.m. UK time. And for any fans to get the chance of hopping on camera to ask him a question during the stream, you can become a premium member of DrumTalkTVBrilliance.com. Along with the perks of getting to submit more videos to drumming challenges, seeing past Q&As, and more, you'll have access to the main stage page where this broadcast will be. There will also be an Ask Question button where you can press that and it'll bring you on StreamYard. You can submit your question and we might let you on camera to ask Oliver himself. There will also be a Gig Pass option for those who only want access to this event. So check the site for that as well, DrumTalkTVBrilliance.com. And we've had Oliver before, I think back in 2024. He even performed a bit for that instance. So people can definitely check that out in the archives on the premium membership. It was a great chat, but now he has some other stuff going on now, a couple tours, one with his dad, and it's called Wakeman and Son. And another is Oliver with his band performing music from the Yes EP he was on years ago called From a Page. And he might talk about some other upcoming things. So if you're a prog rock fan, you will definitely not want to miss this.
All right, here's something else going on within our membership site, DrumTalkTVBrilliance.com. We have 2 drumming challenges running through 11:59 p.m. Pacific on January 31st. Submit your entries to the Ringo Starr Tribute Drumming Challenge and the Frampton Comes Alive Drumming Challenge for a chance to win some cool prizes. Free members of the site can submit up to 2 videos per challenge, and premium members can submit as many as they'd like. Here's some more info about these challenges.
Ring in the new year with the Ringo Starr Tribute Drumming Challenge. Competition open until January 1st, 2026, 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Win up to $125 worth of prizes by playing along to tracks featuring Ringo on drums. The Beatles, his solo albums, collaborations, many options. Win a gift certificate to a favorite music store, a Drum Talk TV shirt that ships in the US, and a Drum Talk TV interview. All the info, rules, and judging criteria are on the site. Free members can submit up to 2 videos per challenge. Premium members can submit as many as they'd like. Go to DrumTalkTVBrilliance.com. Frampton Comes Alive, the legendary live album, turns 50 this month. Celebrate with our drumming challenge competition open until January 1st, 2026, 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Win up to $125 worth of prizes by playing along to tracks from the live album, which featured John Siomos on drums. Win a gift certificate to a favorite music store, a Drum Talk TV shirt that ships in the US, and a Drum Talk TV interview. All the info, rules, and judging criteria are on the site. Free members can submit up to 2 videos per challenge. Premium members can submit as many as they'd like. Go to DrumTalkTVBrilliance.com.
And if all of that wasn't fun enough, check out this other thing we have going on where you can also win prizes. So join us on January 20th, that's a Tuesday, at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern US times for our next music trivia game show. Try your hand at debut albums trivia and get in on the chance to win prizes. We've seen people win by guessing, so join the fun. Healthy escapism and whatnot.
Yes, definitely. Those game shows are very fun. Also, tune in on Thursday, January 22nd at 12 p.m. Pacific for another episode of Plugged into Hearing Health with doctors Michelle Schechter and Eric Sandler. And speaking of health, our founder, Dan Schinder, will be joined by physical therapist Janice Ying on Friday, January 23rd at 12 p.m. Pacific for another episode of Drumming Injury Talk. Also on Friday, January 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific, Dan and Lou Calderola will talk about debut albums on another episode of Under the Influence, a Drum Talk TV original series.
Yeah, we got a lot going on with those original series. And over on Yes Shift, Dad and I celebrated the 80th birthday of original Yes keyboardist Tony Kaye this past Sunday. So we kind of did a career retrospective on him and talked about certain things we've listened to. And I plan on going live with another Yes Shift news episode this weekend. It'll depend on how soon a press release with a bit of news comes out, and I'll catch people up on other bits of prog related news that has come out in the last few weeks as well. So that should be a lot of fun. All right, so now we of course shift gears to this next part of the show.
And now a moment to acknowledge those who have passed.
All right, so first up, Bob Weir, guitarist for the Grateful Dead, passed away this week at the age of 78. The New York Times reported that the family announced his passing on Saturday, January 10th, stating that he had succumbed to underlying lung issues, unquote, after receiving a cancer diagnosis in July. Grateful Dead formed in the San Francisco Bay Area in 1965 and combined rock, folk, blues, and country, forming their own niche within the music world. Weir learned how to play guitar, piano, and a trumpet at a young age, and at 16 years old, coincidentally met future bandmate Jerry Garcia, who was preparing to give banjo lessons in a music store. Throughout his career, he played with other bands including Kingfish, Rat Dog, and Bobby and the Midnights, and most recently performed with Bob Weir and Wolf Bros. In 2024, Weir and the Grateful Dead became Kennedy Center honorees, were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1994, and received the Lifetime Achievement Grammy Award in 2007. Members of Dead and Company paid tribute to Weir this week, capturing his essence in various social media posts. Bassist Ota Burbage wrote extensively about the late musician, saying that, quote, "I thought Bob packed at least 146 years," unquote, into his life as he lived to the fullest. That's quite a way to remember him, with all that he was able to do in his life, did a lot that maybe lots of people wouldn't have.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. He will definitely be missed. Yason Jimenez, Colombian pop star, passed away on January 10th in a plane crash in Paipa, Boyaca. Billboard reported that 14,000 fans gathered on Wednesday to honor the musician, known for hits like Aventurero and Destino Final with Luis Alfonso. 5 other people, including his manager, Jefferson Osorio, personal assistant Oscar Marin, photographer Weissman Mora, the captain Fernando Torres, and Juan Manuel also died in the crash. Several Colombian artists joined the gathering at the Movistar Arena in Bogota, Colombia, to perform some of Jimenez's hits in his honor. People magazine reported that he passed just hours before a scheduled performance. He sold out the Movistar Arena 3 times in 2024 and Bogota's El Campon Stadium in 2025, becoming the first Colombian artist to do so. He was just 34 years old.
That's tragic to be gone that young and in that manner. It's, we just never know. And so we got to cherish the people around us and also what we have and whatnot. John Forte, rapper and Fugees producer, passed away this week on Monday, January 12th. Pitchfork reported that he was found dead in his home in Chilmark, Massachusetts, though there was no, quote, readily apparent cause of death, unquote. As a child, Forte played classical violin and joined a youth orchestra. He was enamored with jazz, soul, hip-hop, and found himself in rap circles. He made his musical break after befriending Lauryn Hill, who invited him to appear on the Fugees' second album, The Score. He also appeared on Wyclef Jean's 1997 solo debut, The Carnival, and in 1998, Forte had Jean produce his own debut album, Poli-Sci. In 2021, he released his sixth and final studio album, Vessels, Angels, and Ancestors. He also wrote the score and soundtrack for documentary Kerouac's Road, The Beat of a Nation, which premiered last year at Tribeca. He was 50 years old.
Yes, and another one, Matt Kwasniewski-Kelvin, the co-founding guitarist of English rock band Black Midi, passed away this week. Billboard reported that according to his family's statement, he passed after a, quote, long battle with his mental health. A talented musician and a kind, loving man finally succumbed despite all efforts, the message reads. He will always be loved. Please take a moment to check in on your loved ones so we can stop this happening to our young men, unquote. Black Midi first rose to prominence in 2019 after gaining a following in London by playing gigs at Windmill Brixton. Before the band had even released their debut album that year, they had already gotten enough demand to embark on a tour of Europe and the US. They released Schlagenheim in July 2019, which was followed by Cavalcade in 2021 and Hellfire in 2022, the latter of which debuted at number 13 on Billboard's Top Alternative Albums chart. Kwasniewski-Kelvin exited the group after their first album, stating that he was feeling, quote, mentally unwell, unquote. The band was last active in 2023, touring the US, Asia, Europe, and Latin America before disbanding in 2024. Kwasniewski-Kelvin was 26 years old.
Yeah, it's another one gone really young. And again, folks, check up on people around you, and we just all got to be there for each other. All right, so now we shift gears again and talk about some other stuff that's been going on.
Now let's see what's been going on this week in the music industry.
All right, Led Zeppelin's bassist and keyboardist, John Paul Jones, is putting a large collection of his studio equipment up for auction, saying he no longer needs so much gear and wants it to go to musicians who will use it well. Showbiz Journal reported that the sale includes 53 pieces of music gear from Jones' personal studio, but none of it was used on Led Zeppelin records. The auction began in late December and is running through January 18th, 2026, as auction house Soundgas handles the sale. Among the pieces on sale are a modified Moog Model 15 synthesizer worth about £24,000, an EMS Synthi Hi-Fly, of which only about 350 were ever made, Akai digital samplers, Roland drum machines, and rack-mounted effects. Jones decided to sell the gear without official historical labels, meaning that it isn't presented as museum pieces, but rather as tools for people to continue using for music purposes. I think that's a really cool thing that he's doing, and that it isn't going to just go sit in a museum to, be taken care of but not be used. And I think he really just wants what he has used and what he has bought over the years to go to good use and continue on his legacy and the legacy of others.
Yeah, just putting them in the right hands and whatnot. John Mellencamp revealed plans this week to do something he insisted he would never do again: perform in massive outdoor amphitheaters on his upcoming Dancing Worlds Tour, The Greatest Hits. Parade reported that the Rock and Roll Hall of Famer has exclusively chosen smaller theater settings for performances since 2009, but his mind was changed by Sean Penn and a diner full of spontaneous singers. People magazine exclusively premiered the announcement through a short film starring Penn as the voice of persuasion. In the footage, Mellencamp pulls up to a diner on a motorcycle where he meets Penn, who says, quote, "God forbid you become generous with your hits and on the soundtrack of people's lives. Just maybe actually let yourself enjoy it," unquote. Soon after, everyone in the diner, including brief appearances by Mellencamp's sons Hud and Speck, break out in a group rendition of hit song Jack and Diane. Mellencamp's tour launches on July 10th, 2026 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and will take him through 19 performances across the United States, wrapping up on August 12th in Mountain View, California. So it's always interesting hearing about what it takes for certain musicians to come back and do something that they kind of took a break from for a while. So the way that they sort of announced this, it sounds like it was a really unique way of doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Very unique and very exciting for John Mellencamp fans who now are able to maybe score tickets a little easier now that he's playing bigger venues. Okay, iconic metal band Black Label Society is revving up for its return with the release of Engines of Demolition on March 27th, the group's first full-length studio album since 2021's Doom Crew Inc. Parade reported that frontman Zakk Wylde began working on the album in 2022 while on the road as part of the Pantera Celebration World Tour, and continued working on it through 2025. The band shared the song Name in Blood to commemorate the new album. Wylde said, quote, "Engines of Demolition is a sincere ride through the peaks and valleys of the last 4 years from start to finish. Some of the highest highs and the lowest lows and everything in between," unquote. The track list begins with the lead single, Name in Blood, and ends with Ozzy's song, a tribute to the late Ozzy Osbourne. Wylde joined Ozzy's band in 1987, replacing Jake E. Lee, and played and co-wrote on Ozzy's albums No Rest for the Wicked, No More Tears, and Osmosis. Black Label Society will launch their tour on February 27th in San Antonio, Texas, and wrap up on May 14th in Nashville, Tennessee. Very exciting for big fans of that band.
Yeah, definitely. And Barry Manilow has announced 6 new shows for 2026 following surgery to remove a cancerous spot on his lung. Billboard reported that a post to his Instagram account said, quote, "Barry is feeling great. So great that he's decided to add 6 additional concerts to his existing March schedule," unquote. These shows will hit Charlotte, North Carolina, Norfolk, Virginia, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Nashville, and Lexington, Kentucky. A press release noted that these would be his final concerts in these cities, but also noted that Manilow is set to release new music this year. His tour will launch February 27th in Tampa, Florida, and will wrap up on April 29th in Duluth, Georgia. So whenever it comes to health-related things, we, of course, hear about needing to take a break, but this was kind of surprising that it's like, oh, he's well enough to add a few more shows, but if he's able to do it, then all power to him.
Yeah, certainly. That is very exciting. Very glad that he is feeling better and that everything seemed to go well. Okay, Dolly Parton is teasing something new coming soon. Parade reported that an Instagram story posted on her account on January 12th shared a cryptic image showing Parton from behind, a guitar slung over her shoulder. She appeared to be standing in front of a scenic mountain shot with the sun shining through the clouds. Text over the photo said, quote, "Something new is on the horizon," unquote. Parton previously announced that the tour Threads, My Songs in Symphony would expand to additional cities in 2026, though the tour is based on her story and music but does not feature her performing. While she has navigated some hardships in the last year, including the loss of her husband and some personal health problems, this announcement and her upcoming residency at the Coliseum at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas indicate that she is still going strong. That's really good news. I'm very excited to see what her new announcement is and what she'll be coming out with soon.
Yeah, and whenever the announcement comes out, we'll do our best to report it as soon as we can. And death metal band Behemoth announced a series of shows in North America as part of their back-to-back 2026 schedule. Parade reported that the Polish band announced on their Instagram a series of shows titled The Godless Four and will take place across various US and Canadian cities between April and May. The band will start in San Diego, California on April 14th before wrapping up this segment of their tour on May 21st in Los Angeles. They also announced that they will be joined by special guests Decide, Rotting Christ, and Immolation. In their announcement, they stated, quote, "This tour is not merely a series of performances. It is a rite forged in decades of defiance, conviction, and sonic blasphemy," unquote. Tickets go on sale tomorrow, January 16th at 10 a.m. local time. Yeah, so if there are any fans of this music, keep an eye out for when those tickets become available tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. Keith Richards, legendary guitarist for the Rolling Stones, is giving fans and collectors a rare chance to own a piece of rock history. Parade reported that Richards is teaming up with Gibson in a new collaboration that will see 2 limited edition recreations of Richards' iconic black 1960 Gibson ES355, released worldwide. Only 50 of the collector's editions have been produced, and each is signed by Richards, both on the F-Hole label and the back of the headstock. They will be sold exclusively through Gibson.com and Gibson Garage locations in Nashville, where the guitars are being produced, and in London. An additional 100 signed label versions, signed on the F-Hole only, will be available through select Gibson custom dealers and Gibson Garage stores. Richards started using this model in 1969 and used it in studio sessions for Sticky Fingers and Exile on Main Street, and it has been a staple of the band's tours since 1997. He explained the instrument's significance, saying, quote, "This is my standard tuning 6-string. This is the other side of my thing. Put it through just about any amp and it will sound the way you want it, because this is so much room for more expression."
Nice. Yeah, Keith Richards just still being involved with things, and yeah, really cool to see. Pop punk band The Ataris are releasing new music this year with their first album in 19 years. Syracuse reported that the band's bassist Mike Davenport shared that, quote, "The new record is done," unquote, and the release date is planned for March or April 2026 and will include the group's most recent single, Car Song, released last May. Davenport said, quote, "It has been emotional, and I can tell you that singer-guitarist Chris Rowe put everything he has into that record. It has been a long time, and before he was trying to handle too much, and so by getting us all back, he can focus on what's truly important," unquote. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the band's formation in 1996, with Davenport noting that the Ataris reunited after 2 lengthy hiatuses, but had a new energy after the COVID pandemic. The group has more than a dozen tour dates scheduled in 2026, coming after they had to cancel 2 December concerts in Buffalo and Syracuse after Rowe injured his back. So that's really fascinating that, even despite, what we all went through with the pandemic, they were still able to find that energy, perhaps, more of the motivation to work with this music, which is good to hear.
Yeah, definitely. Very exciting news. James Taylor is heading back on the road with a series of concert dates for 2026, including several major cities across the U.S. Parade reported that the tour, dubbed An Evening with James Taylor and his all-star band, will begin April 26th in Highland, California, playing 30 shows and wrapping up on September 26th in Hollywood, Florida. The Rock and Roll Hall of Famer and 6-time Grammy winner released his most recent album, American Standard, in 2020. This is very exciting. Any James Taylor fans should definitely be gearing up for this and maybe, go buy some tickets.
Yeah, for sure. And this last item we have here is about heavy metal band Five Finger Death Punch, who are celebrating their 20th anniversary this year with a world tour. An extensive slate of tour dates, be joined by 2 special guests on tour, and donate a portion of the proceeds to the USA Judo and BMX Racing and BMX Freestyle Olympic teams. Founding guitarist Zoltan Bathory said, quote, "It's a little known fact that the United States is one of the only major countries in the world where the government does not fund Olympic and Paralympic athletes or their training programs," unquote. The band will be touring with American outlaw country singer Cody Jinks and will be joined on stage by rock band Eva Under Fire. They are scheduled to kick off the tour on July 20th in Camden, New Jersey, before making their way through the rest of the U.S. The tour will wrap up on October 23rd in Bristow, Virginia. More tour dates are likely to be announced soon. It's interesting how I find these days that 20 years ago doesn't feel like that long ago, but it's still a really good milestone for them to do here. And admittedly, I'm not that familiar with them or these other guests who will be performing with them, but really cool that they're able to do this celebration.
Yeah, certainly. Very exciting and a very big milestone.
Here's a reminder of what's coming up soon on Drum Talk TV. Soon.
All right, and
Okay.
now we
Join
get to
us.
this last segment.
All right. Join us next Tuesday, January 20th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for debut album trivia. RSVP at drumtalktvbrilliance.com to receive the link the day of the show.
Yeah, and don't forget to submit your entries to the Ringo Starr Tribute Drumming Challenge and the Frampton Comes Alive Drumming Challenge by January 31st, 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. And of course, sign up as a premium member or Gig Pass holder for our upcoming fan Q&A with Oliver Wakeman, Wednesday, January 21st, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern US time, 7 p.m. UK time. All this at drumtalktvbrilliance.com. All right, so that's the show for today. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you all soon. Thanks, everyone.